Some people don't realize what they lost until silence turns into the mirror that finally tells the truth. My friends, let me tell you something honest and maybe a little uncomfortable. There comes a moment in everyone's life when time becomes the teacher and silence becomes the test. And the truth is, the people who acted like you were replaceable never admit it up front. Oh no, they walk away with confidence, they laugh too loudly, they post too often, they pretend they're living their best life. But stay with me, because that performance doesn't last. Time has a funny way of peeling off every mask, and silence. Silence exposes the things pride tries hardest to hide. If you've ever been made to feel like you didn't matter, if someone treated your heart like a free trial version they could cancel any time, today's message is going to open your eyes a little wider than they were a minute ago. Now folks, imagine this for a second. Imagine you're holding a cup of water with a tiny crack in the bottom. At first it looks fine, you barely notice anything wrong, but slowly, drip by drip, it empties. That's what happens when someone walks away thinking they won't miss you. The crack isn't obvious at first. They think they're solid, unbothered, unaffected. They think losing you doesn't cost them anything. But life has this quiet way of letting the truth leak through. It doesn't shout, it doesn't rush, it just waits. And time, oh my friends, time always wins. People pretend silence means nothing is happening, but silence is where everything is happening. It's the quiet room where your lessons grow legs. It's the mirror that shows someone who they really were when nobody was watching. It's the soundtrack of regret replaying itself when the world finally stops distracting them. You might not see it yet, but your silence is already doing the work you hoped your words would do. Words try to convince. Silence reveals truth. Words spark arguments. Silence sparks reflection. And reflection, that's where the ego begins to crumble. Let me break a lie real quick. They didn't walk away because you weren't enough. They walked away because they weren't ready to meet the version of themselves they saw in your presence. Sometimes your light exposes their shadows. Sometimes your consistency highlights their chaos. Sometimes your love reminds them of how little they were giving. Running away wasn't strength, it was escape. But escape doesn't last forever. Ask anyone who's ever tried to outrun their own reflection. Sooner or later, they look in the mirror, and the mirror whispers, "You lost someone you will not find again." There's a quote I love. Silence doesn't punish. Silence teaches. And my friends, your silence is teaching someone a lesson they never expected to receive. It's showing them what life feels like without the softness, the patience, the stability, the presence you used to offer without hesitation. It's showing them what a world without you actually sounds like. Spoiler alert, it's a lot louder than they like to admit. And here's the part that might make you smile just a little. Time is on your side. While they're busy pretending, performing, proving, you're rebuilding. You're growing roots in places you used to bleed. You're strengthening muscles they never appreciated. You're becoming someone who no longer falls apart when someone else pulls away. And trust me, that transformation isn't quiet at all, even if it starts in silence. So before we dive deeper into how time flips everything around, take this with you. You are not losing. You are leveling up. You are not forgotten. You are remembered in ways they won't speak out loud. And you are not waiting. You are evolving. Write this in the comments to claim it. I choose my peace. Stay with me. This is about to get powerful. And don't forget, press like and subscribe so you don't miss the truth you deserve to hear. Number 1, the illusion of detachment, why they think they don't miss you. People don't realize how much they need you until life stops giving them access to the version of you they took for granted. My friends, let's hit something hard right from the start. When they first walk away, when they first pull back, when they first act like losing you is no big deal, it's not because you didn't matter. It's because their ego is louder than their truth. They don't even understand yet what they're losing. They tell themselves they're fine. They tell their friends they're fine. They post like they're fine. They sleep like they're fine. But that's not strength. That's a performance. That's emotional acting, not emotional stability. Folks, imagine this. Imagine someone jumps out of a moving train thinking they're landing on solid ground. The first few seconds feel exciting. The wind is in their face. Adrenaline is rushing. They feel free. But give it a moment. Gravity kicks in. Reality hits. The ground starts racing toward them. That freedom they celebrated was really just a fall they hadn't felt yet. That's what their "I don't miss you" phase really is. It's not calm. It's in free fall, in slow motion. You sit there wondering, how can they look so happy? How can they act like I never mattered? Did I imagine everything? Was I the only one who felt something real? Those questions are heavy, my friends. They stab at your self-worth. They wake you up at night. They make you replay every moment, every conversation, every red flag you ignored. And somewhere inside, a quiet fear whispers, maybe I was the only one who cared. That fear is a liar. Let's break it. Here's a truth most people never say out loud. A lot of people weren't taught how to sit with real emotions. They were taught how to run from them. They think detachment means acting cold, staying unbothered, never showing pain. They think needing someone makes them weak. So when they do start to feel the loss, their instinct is to bury it, to drown it in noise, to pretend it isn't there. They don't post because they're healed. They post because they're hiding. They don't laugh because life is perfect. They laugh because silence scares them. Think about it. If they were truly over it, would they need to prove it so loudly? Would they need so many distractions? Would they need so many temporary people to fill the space you once held? Real peace is quiet. It doesn't need an audience. But ego loves crowds, loves applause, loves filters and perfectly timed stories. Ego will do anything to avoid sitting alone in a room with reality. Maybe right now you're thinking, if they don't show pain, do they even care? If they don't come back, does that mean I meant nothing? If they're not chasing me, am I that easy to forget? That's where time comes in, my friends. Time is like a slow, honest spotlight. At first, it shines on the outside, the fun, the distractions, the "I'm good" act. But as days turn into weeks, weeks into months, that spotlight starts to move inward. It leaves the parties, the noise, the crowd. It follows them home. It sits with them when their phone is face down on the table and the room finally gets quiet. In those moments, the illusion of detachment starts to crack. Not publicly, not in a dramatic scene you get to watch. It cracks in their chest, in their thoughts, in those little flashes of memory they try very hard to shrug off. A joke you made, a look you gave, a feeling they never found anywhere else. They'll brush it away at first. Whatever, it's nothing. But it's not nothing. It's the beginning. It's the first tiny thread pulling at the story they told themselves. There's a quote I want you to remember. Acting unbothered is not healing, it's hiding. And a lot of them are just hiding from themselves, from their mistakes, from the weight of what they did or failed to do. On the outside, they might look like they won. They might look like they got the last word, the upper hand, the final move. On the inside, though, they're building a house over an earthquake. It looks stable until the ground starts to move. Why is this so hard for you to accept sometimes? Because you're honest about your feelings. You feel deeply, you attach deeply, you care fully, and when someone can switch off like a light, it makes you question if your love was foolish. But listen to me, my friends, your depth is not foolish. Your sincerity is not a weakness. Your ability to feel is not the problem. The problem is, we live in a world that celebrates detachment more than integrity, performance more than truth. People think being cold is powerful, but the coldest people are often the most scared. They're terrified that if they admit they miss you, they'll lose control, so they act like they don't. They act like you were a phase, like they upgraded, like they're happier without you, and you sit with those images, those posts, those fake laughs and ask yourself, was I the problem? No, you weren't the problem. You were the mirror. Being with you showed them parts of themselves they weren't ready to fix. So instead of growing, they chose leaving. Instead of softening, they chose shutting down. Running always feels easier than healing at the start, but running gets exhausting. Healing, once it starts, becomes peaceful. Is it difficult to sit with this perspective at first? Absolutely. Your mind is used to attacking you. It's used to saying, if they're not chasing me, I'm not worth chasing. It's used to turning their behavior into proof that you are unlovable, forgettable, replaceable. That's the lie we're tearing down. What they choose to show the world says more about their fear than your value. Your worth is not measured by their urgency. Your importance is not measured by their texts. Your impact is not erased because they are too proud to admit it. Folks, I want you to imagine one more thing. Imagine a seed planted in the ground. Above the surface, nothing seems to be happening. The soil looks the same. Days go by and you see no sign of life. But underground, everything is moving. Roots are forming. The seed is cracking open. Growth is happening in secret. That's how time works on someone's ego. On the surface, you see nothing. No apology, no message, no visible regret. Underneath, though, things are shifting. The story is changing. The awareness is growing. They just won't show it. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But they will feel it. And while that inner earthquake builds on their side, something equally powerful is happening on yours. You begin to realize that their silence doesn't actually define your future. Their ego doesn't get to write your story. Their pretending doesn't cancel your truth. That's when real stoicism starts, my friends. Not when you stop feeling, but when you stop begging your feelings to be validated by someone who's still at war with theirs. So here's what I want you to do. Instead of asking, why don't they miss me? Start asking, why am I giving so much power to someone who doesn't even know how to face themselves? That question alone can shift your whole mindset. Because when you stop measuring your worth by their reaction, you step into a different kind of strength. A quiet, steady, grounded strength. The kind that doesn't need an audience. Let's lock this in together. Write this in the comments right now. I am not chasing their validation. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that you're done doubting your value just because someone else is afraid of theirs. And stay with me, because what's coming next will flip how you see time, silence, and your power in ways you won't forget. Number 2, time exposes what ego tries to hide. Time is the one judge that never rushes, but it always delivers a verdict. My friends, let's talk about time, because a lot of you think nothing is happening right now. You look at the silence, you look at their life from the outside, and it feels like they've moved on while you're still stuck. But here's the truth. Nobody tells you. Ego can fake strength for a season, but time has no interest in their performance. Time doesn't care about their "I'm fine" posts, their forced smiles, or their new distractions. Time, slowly, quietly, strips all of that away. At first, it looks like they're winning, but this story is not about the first chapter. It's about what happens when the noise fades and reality walks in. Folks, imagine this. Think of a house painted with bright, beautiful colors on the outside, but the foundation underneath is cracked. From the street, it looks perfect. Clean walls, fresh paint, nice windows. People walk by and think, wow, what a lovely house. But deep down in the concrete, there are fractures nobody sees. Now add one thing: time. Not a storm, not an earthquake, just time. Little by little, the cracks spread. The paint starts to bubble. Doors stop closing properly. Floors begin to tilt. That's what's happening inside someone who pretends they feel nothing after losing you. The outside might look picture perfect, but time is working on their foundation. You might ask yourself, if time is working on them, why don't I see it? Why don't they reach out? Why don't they show any regret? Because ego hates confessing. Ego would rather suffer quietly than admit, I messed up, I lost something real. So they hide the cracks, they patch, they cover, they distract, they try new people, new habits, new routines. But here's the thing, time doesn't forget. It waits. It brings back memories when they least expect it. A song plays. A place you went together shows up on their feed. Someone says your name by accident, and suddenly their chest tightens, their mind drifts, their mood shifts. That's time exposing what ego tried to bury. They'll try to brush it off. It's nothing. I'm just tired. I'm just stressed. But is it really nothing? If you were nothing, would they still be thinking about you months later? If you were nothing, would certain memories still sting when they appear? Think about it logically, my friends. The things that don't matter don't echo. The things that don't matter don't return in dreams. The things that don't matter don't bother the heart. Yet here they are, battling these quiet reminders. That's not accident. That's time doing its work. There's a quote I want you to hold close. What the ego hides, time reveals. At the start, their ego tells a story. They weren't right for me. I'm better without them. I didn't really care like that. They repeat this script to themselves and everyone around them. But time isn't listening to the story. Time is tracking the truth. And the truth is stored in their body, their nervous system, their emotional memory. That's why the regret never shows up at the party. It shows up in the shower. It shows up late at night when the phone finally goes silent. It shows up when they see someone who smiles like you, dresses like you, or carries peace the way you used to. Why is it hard for you to trust this process? Because you want proof you can see. You want visible regret. You want an apology you can replay. You want a message that says, I was wrong. You're human, of course you want that. But Stoicism teaches something deeper. Your healing cannot depend on whether someone ever admits what they did. Time exposing them is not about your ego winning. It's about balance returning. They have to feel what they made you feel, not because you're cursed, but because that's how growth works. No one escapes the lessons they refuse to learn. And let's be honest, my friends, sometimes it feels unfair. You see them smiling, you see them posting, you see them with new people, and you think, why does it look easier for them? Why am I the one carrying all the pain while they get to enjoy life? But remember this, you are not just hurting, you're healing. There's a big difference. Your pain is active, it's processing, it's leading somewhere. Theirs is frozen, controlled, denied. And what is denied always returns stronger. What is faced becomes lighter. So even though it feels heavier now, you are the one moving forward. Picture this. Two people thrown into deep water. One starts swimming immediately. It's hard, it hurts. They swallow water, they panic, but they keep moving. The other person pretends the water isn't deep. They float on their back, laugh, splash, act like it's all fun. But slowly their body gets tired. They stop moving, and the moment they stop performing, they start sinking. That's what time does to fake detachment. It waits until the performance runs out of energy. Then it starts pulling them down into their truth. So no, they don't get away with it. They don't walk into some perfect life where they never feel the loss. That fantasy is only in your fear. In reality, they are carrying a quiet weight that gets heavier with time. And the heavier it gets, the harder it becomes to ignore. Time doesn't rob you. Time reveals them. Time doesn't erase your value. It proves it. You, on the other hand, learn how to breathe underwater. You learn how to float without clinging. You learn how to swim toward your own shore. At first, it feels unfair that you're doing all the emotional work. But later, it becomes your superpower. You become the one who can sit with truth and not collapse. You become the one who no longer has to run. And trust me, there is nothing more powerful than a person who is not afraid of their own emotions. So let's anchor this right now. Time is not your enemy. Your enemy is the belief that nothing is happening just because you can't see it. Something is happening in them, in you, in the space between you. Let time do its work without you chasing updates. Write this in the comments to claim it. I trust time and my growth. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that you're done begging for visible proof. You already know how this ends. Time exposes what ego hides. And what's coming next will show you just how loud your silence really is. Number 3, silence becomes the mirror they cannot escape. Silence is not empty. It's filled with every truth people tried to avoid facing. My friends, let's sit with this for a moment. People think silence is nothing. They think silence is just the absence of words, the gap between messages, the space after the last argument. But silence is not neutral. Silence is a mirror. And the thing about mirrors is simple. They don't create anything. They just reflect what's already there. When they chose distance, when they chose to stop replying, when they chose to pull back and act like they didn't care, they thought silence would protect them. They thought if they didn't talk about it, they wouldn't feel it. But real life doesn't work like that. Silence doesn't protect the ego, it corners it. Folks, imagine this. Imagine walking into a room with one small mirror on the wall. Easy to avoid, right? You can turn your face away, you can sit in a corner, you can pretend it's not there. Now imagine that same room slowly transforming. Day by day, another wall becomes reflective, another surface starts shining back your image, the floor, the ceiling. Eventually, no matter where you turn, you're staring at yourself. That's what happens over time when someone tries to hide from what they did, who they were, and what they lost. At first, silence feels like an escape, but the longer it stretches, the more it becomes a room full of mirrors they can't walk out of. On the outside, it looks so calm, doesn't it? They're not texting, they're not calling, they're not bothered, and your mind, if you're not careful, turns that into a story. They must not care. They must be over me. They must be unaffected. That story hurts. It makes your chest heavy, your thoughts restless. You start thinking, if I mattered, wouldn't they reach out? If they felt anything, wouldn't they say something? But here's the lie in that thinking. You're assuming silence equals peace. It doesn't. Silence just means there are no words. It doesn't mean there are no feelings. When the noise stops, everything they've been running from starts getting louder. The things they pushed aside because they were too busy. The conversations they brushed off because you overreacted. The moments they chose their ego over your connection. Silence replays those scenes without filters. It doesn't let them talk over it. It doesn't let them distract from it. It just reflects, gently at first, then insistently, then relentlessly. That's why so many people fear being alone. It's not the room they're afraid of. It's the reflection waiting inside the room. You might not see this process happening, but that doesn't mean it isn't real. Think about how your own mind works. When everything is loud, when you're scrolling, working, talking, you can avoid certain thoughts. But as soon as you lay down at night and the lights go off, your brain starts playing its own highlight reel. The same thing happens to them. They're not immune to this. They can pretend all they want, but silence brings receipts. It brings back the way you were patient when they were distant, how you tried when they were half invested, how you stayed when they were testing your limits. There's a quote you need to remember here. Silence doesn't erase history, it magnifies it. They thought distance would dilute your impact. They thought not talking would make the connection fade. But the opposite happens to things that were real. Time and silence strip away the drama, the ego, the arguments, and what's left are the core truths. Who actually showed up? Who actually cared? Who actually gave? And in that mirror, they don't just see you. They see themselves standing next to you and how little they offered in return. Why is this perspective so difficult to accept sometimes? Because you don't get to see their side of the silence. You only feel your own. You know the nights you couldn't sleep. You know the times you almost texted. You know the battles between your heart and your self-respect. What you don't see is them picking up the phone and putting it back down, them typing and deleting, them hearing a joke and thinking they would have laughed at this. You don't see the way your name pulls at something inside them that they're too proud to name out loud. Just because they hide it doesn't mean it's not happening. And let's be honest, my friends, some of them are experts at pretending. They've been wearing emotional masks for years. I'm good. I don't care. It is what it is. They've said those lines so many times, they almost believe them. But silence has the patience to wait them out. Eventually, the mask slips. Maybe not in front of you, maybe not online, but definitely in those quiet moments they don't talk about. When they're alone in a room that suddenly feels too big. When they scroll past your profile and their chest tightens for reasons they quickly brush away. When they see something you would have loved and there's no one to send it to. That's silence doing its work. The beautiful part in all of this is what silence is doing for you. While it's forcing them to face what they've tried to bury, it's also giving you space to face what you deserve. At first, your silence feels like a punishment, like you're starving yourself waiting for a message. But slowly, it becomes something else. It becomes a boundary. It becomes a filter. It becomes proof to yourself that you don't need to keep chasing people just to feel worthy. You start to see that every day you don't break your own peace to get their attention. You're choosing yourself. You're building self-respect brick by brick. So no, silence is not weakness. Silence is wisdom. It's the moment you stop explaining your value and let your absence speak for you. It's the moment you stop auditioning for someone who never deserved front row access to your heart in the first place. And even though it feels heavy right now, one day you'll look back and realize that your quiet saved you from cycles your words never could. Let's seal this in together. Drop this in the comments. My silence reflects my worth. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that your quiet is not emptiness, it's intention. And stay with me, because what comes next will reveal just how deep those emotional echoes go when time starts replaying everything they thought they could ignore. Number 4. The emotional echoes that come back to haunt them. Unfelt emotions don't disappear, they just wait for a quiet moment to come back louder. My friends, here's where things start getting interesting. Because at first, when everything ends or falls apart, it looks like nothing is touching them. They're out living life, posting, laughing, distracting. You look at that and think, wow, they really just moved on like I was nothing. But that is only the surface story. Underneath, something else is forming, emotional echoes. These are the quiet reminders that don't ask for permission, the memories that sneak past their pride, the feelings they tried to skip but now have to replay. Folks, imagine this. Imagine standing in a huge canyon and shouting a word into the open air. At first, your voice flies out and disappears. For a second, you think the sound is gone. But then, a moment later, it comes back, repeated, stretched, altered. It hits you again from the other side. That's what emotional echoes are like. When they walked away, when they dismissed you, when they told themselves you were just a phase, they thought their decision was final. But time and silence work like that canyon. The things they threw away with confidence start coming back to them, softer maybe, but deeper. It doesn't start with some big dramatic breakdown. It starts small, a joke someone makes that sounds like something you would have said, a song that used to play in the background when you were together, a certain time of day when they always used to hear from you. They feel a tiny sting in their chest, a moment of glitch in their mood. They brush it off. I'm just tired. I'm overthinking. But those small glitches are signs. Echoes, little knocks on the door of a truth they tried to lock away. You sit on your side thinking, if they really missed me, they'd say something. If they really cared, wouldn't they show it? That's where the lie sneaks in. We were taught that missing someone always looks loud, crying, calling, chasing, confessing. But in reality, most people miss you in ways they're not ready to confess, even to themselves. They miss you in the car at the red light when the world freezes for a few seconds. They miss you in the shower when there's nowhere to hide from their own mind. They miss you when they're laughing with new people and suddenly realize the laughter doesn't feel the same. There's a quote I want you to hold on to. Regret speaks in whispers long before it ever screams. Emotional echoes are those whispers. They sound like, I shouldn't have said that. They didn't deserve that. I wonder what they're doing now. At first, ego argues back. No, you did the right thing. You're fine. It's better this way. But the more time passes, the more those whispers keep returning. They show up in dreams. They show up in random flashbacks. They show up in that heavy feeling they can't quite explain. Why is this so hard for them to admit? Because admitting they miss you means admitting they misjudged you. It means admitting they let something valuable slip through their fingers. It means admitting they weren't as in control as they pretended to be. That's a big ego bruise. So instead of saying, I miss them, they say, I'm just nostalgic. Instead of saying, I messed up, they say, it wasn't meant to be. Instead of saying, I want to reach out, they say, it's better to leave it alone. They wrap their feelings in logic, but the heart knows the difference. And you, on your side, feel this strange tug sometimes. You suddenly think of them out of nowhere and wonder, are they thinking of me right now? You feel guilty for missing them when they acted like you didn't matter. But here's the bigger picture. You're not crazy. Emotional connections don't shut off like a switch. You both feel the echoes. The difference is you're learning to acknowledge yours honestly while they are still trying to outrun theirs. That doesn't make them stronger. it makes them stuck. Folks, picture another metaphor. Imagine dropping a stone into a calm lake. The impact happens once, but the ripples keep moving outward, ring after ring, long after the stone has settled at the bottom. That "we're done," that last argument, that quiet fade out, that was the stone. But the effects, the emotions, the realizations, those are the ripples. You felt them early because you're emotionally present. You process, you ask questions, you feel deeply. For them, the ripples travel slower. They don't want to look at the water. They keep themselves busy on the shore. But eventually, those ripples reach their feet. And when they look down, they realize the surface of their life was disturbed by what they threw away. Is it fair that you felt the pain first? No. But it is powerful, because feeling early means healing early. You bleed, then you build. You cry, then you climb. You question, then you grow. They, on the other hand, postponed their pain. They delayed their lessons, and delayed lessons always cost more later. The echoes that come back to them won't just remind them of you, they'll remind them of the version of themselves they were with you, and how much work they refused to do when they had the chance. So when that little voice in your head says, "Maybe they never cared," I want you to challenge it. Caring and admitting are two different things. Loving and honoring are two different things. Feeling something and having the maturity to act on it are two different things. They might have cared, but not enough to rise. They might have felt, but not enough to choose growth over comfort. And that's not on you. That's their unfinished homework with life. Here's the beautiful part for you. Every echo that hits them is a reminder that your presence was real, your impact was deep, and your love was not ordinary. You were not forgettable. You were not a background character. You were a chapter so strong, it keeps rereading itself in their mind when things go quiet. Let that lift you instead of break you. Let's lock this in together. Write this in the comments. My presence echoes beyond my absence. Show them, show yourself. Show the world around you that you understand your value doesn't end when a relationship does. And stay with me, because what's coming next will show you how, while those echoes haunt them, your growth is quietly turning you into someone they'll never be able to replace. Number 5. Your growth begins where their awareness ends. Sometimes losing access to you is the lesson they never knew they needed, and the liberation you never knew you deserved. My friends, here's where the shift quietly begins, not in their world, but in yours. Because while time is pulling at their pride, something far more powerful is happening on your side of the silence. You are growing. And the beautiful part? Your growth always begins exactly where their awareness ends. They stop paying attention, they stop appreciating, they stop trying. And that is precisely the moment life starts teaching you something deeper, something transformative. Folks, imagine this. Imagine a gardener who waters one plant every single day, tending to it, nurturing it, giving it sunlight, giving it care, while completely ignoring another plant in the corner. That second plant still grows, but it grows differently. It grows tougher. Its roots dig deeper because no one is checking on it. It survives storms alone. It learns to bend without breaking. It becomes resilient in ways the pampered plant never will. That second plant, my friends, that's you. You didn't get the attention you deserved. You didn't get the consistency you offered. You didn't get the love you poured out so freely. But what you did get was strength. Because here's a truth people rarely admit. When someone stops watering you, that's when you learn how to water yourself. When someone stops choosing you, you learn how to choose yourself. When someone pulls away, thinking you'll crumble, they unintentionally push you into your most powerful era. And the whole time, they think silence is hurting you. They think you're sitting there waiting, shrinking, doubting. But what they don't see, the part their ego blinds them from, is that silence is reshaping you into someone they won't recognize when time finally catches up to them. Let's break a lie real quick. You didn't lose anything when someone walked away. You didn't lose a soulmate. You didn't lose your person. You didn't lose your chance at love. What you lost was the illusion that someone else was responsible for your happiness. What you lost was the false belief that love has to hurt to feel real. What you lost was the idea that staying loyal to the wrong person is something to be proud of. That loss isn't loss, it's release. And release is the first step to rising. But I know, my friends, the early stages don't feel like rising. They feel like sinking. You're overwhelmed. You're confused. You're trying to figure out how someone could throw away something you cherished with your whole heart. You're battling thoughts like, why wasn't I enough? What did I do wrong? Am I that easy to forget? Those thoughts are heavy. They bruise your confidence. They shake your sense of identity. But here's the most important part. Those questions are not proof of your weakness. Those questions are proof that you're waking up. You're starting to separate your worth from someone else's inability to value it. People think awakening is peaceful. It's not. It's painful. It's messy. It's confusing. It's the emotional version of your bones stretching. Growth hurts at first because you're leaving behind an older version of yourself. The version who tolerated too much, explained too much, forgave too quickly, stayed too long. When you begin to grow, you shed that version of you, and shedding always feels like breaking until it feels like freedom. Here's another metaphor, folks. Imagine a bird sitting in a cage for years. The door has been open the whole time, but the bird never leaves because it thinks the cage is home. Then one day, something shakes the cage. A breakup, a betrayal, a disappointment, and the bird panics. Its heart races, it feels terrified, but as it stumbles, flutters, and finally steps outside, something magical happens. The wind touches its wings, sunlight hits its feathers, and suddenly it remembers it was born to fly, not to sit inside a prison built out of someone else's inconsistency. That's you in this moment. You're stepping out of a cage you didn't even know you were in. Why does this happen? Because your growth was never going to happen inside the version of love they offered you. It wasn't stable enough. It wasn't deep enough. It wasn't safe enough. Sometimes the universe removes people not as punishment, but as protection. Because if they stayed, you wouldn't grow. You wouldn't evolve. You wouldn't wake up to your own power. Their exit is often the doorway to your transformation. And trust me, transformation looks good on you. As you grow, something else happens. Your clarity sharpens. You start seeing things you didn't notice before. You start realizing you weren't rejected, you were redirected. You start seeing that silence is not a sign of defeat. It's a sign of discipline. You start accepting that your peace matters more than their approval. And while they're still living in emotional reruns, replaying old patterns, repeating old mistakes, you're stepping into a new chapter with new standards. And the most poetic part of all, they won't even notice your growth until it's too late. They'll come looking for the version of you they once knew, the one who overgave, over-explained, overweighted, and they'll find someone else instead, someone confident, someone grounded, someone healed, someone whose love is no longer available on discount. Your silence didn't break you, it rebuilt you. The moment they stopped seeing your worth is the moment you started discovering it, and that discovery is worth more than any apology they'll never say. My friends, let's seal this transformation together. In the comments, write this affirmation: I grow stronger in silence. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that your healing is real and your evolution is unstoppable. And if this message hit home, if it opened your perspective or gave your heart even a little bit of peace, then do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs this chapter of truth. Stay with me, because what comes next in your journey should not be missed.